What's going on, guys? Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Today I want to talk to you about my favorite guitar brand and, in my opinion, one of the most underrated brands, Agile guitars. Before I go any further, I just want to say this is not a sponsored video. I'm not being paid for this. These opinions are all my own. I'm just a fan. Now, if you've never heard of Agile guitars before, they are a house brand of Rondo Music. Rondo Music is a distributor here in the US, and in my opinion, I think they make great instruments. First, I'd like to talk about mine, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Agile's inventory and their business a little bit more in depth. One of my first Agile guitars was this guy right here. This was a custom shop build. I'd say probably 5 or 6 years ago, Agile had a full custom shop. Unfortunately, they no longer have it. If they did, I'd probably have 2 or 3 more models from them. But it was a typical custom shop. You could select just about any feature you could think of. They put it together for you. This one was inspired from Jim Root's Fender Stratocaster. Jim Root is one of my favorite guitarists. I love his style, I love his sound, and I wanted a guitar that was like his, but not exactly like his. There's obviously some things I changed. For example, this is a 7-string instead of a 6-string, and I went with this wine red color instead of his traditional matte black. But other pieces in there are inspired by him. I do have the active EMG pickups. I'm not entirely sure which model these are, but they are EMG actives. I do have a 27-inch scale length on here instead of the 25.5, and I've got the no fret markers, ebony fretboard, bound, all mahogany body, and just a standard volume and tone pot with the 3-way selector switch. I have one final note about my favorite feature on this signature instrument, or on this custom instrument. It is the fact that it is signed by Mr. Corey Taylor, the man. I'll put up a picture of him signing the instrument. I had a buddy that was going out to a convention in, I wanted to say he was in Mexico or maybe California. Anyway, he called me up and said, "Hey man, I'm going to a convention. Corey Taylor's going to be there. I know you're a fan. Would you like me to take one of your instruments out and get signed, or would you like to come out and join me?" I told him that I couldn't get the time away from work and that I couldn't afford the flight out there, but if he was willing to get my instrument signed, I'd pay whatever it took to get that done. He said not to worry about it. I put it in a box. He came by and grabbed it. He took it to the con. Mr. Corey Taylor signed it. The only way this could have been better is if Jim Root had been at the con and could have signed it as well. But honestly, I am not going to complain about a signature from Corey Taylor. It just makes this instrument all that more special. I believe that instruments should be played. That's what they're there for. That's their purpose. I'm not a big fan of sticking something in a case just for display purposes, but if I ever were to stick a guitar into a case, it would be this one, for the simple fact that it's a custom instrument from a brand that no longer does custom, and it's signed by Corey Taylor. Next up, I've got my Agile Pro 627. This is my workhorse guitar. This is a day-to-day guitar that I use for a lot of learning and for a lot of riffage. This thing is dependable and reliable. I love this thing. It has the active EMG pickups, standard volume and tone pot with 3-way selector switch. It does have a 27-inch scale length with an ebony fretboard. And one other feature, this is the only guitar I have with this particular feature, and I really like it, is the neck-through design with the mahogany body and the mahogany neck. I am aware that if I ever warp the neck or crack the neck or break the neck, this instrument is basically done for, but in my opinion, it's worth it for the ergonomics. I love the way this thing feels. I love the way it sounds. It's got an incredibly low action on here. In fact, I'm kind of surprised I don't get a little bit more feedback from the pickups as a result, but I really do enjoy this guitar and I really like it. Okay, this is my first 8-string instrument. This is the Agile AL3100 MCC. I think Agile's actually now worked up to the 3200 MCC series. Obviously, it is a single cut. This thing is obviously 8 strings. It's got a 27-inch scale length like my other ones. It's got a ebony fretboard. It is bound with the cream binding along the headstock and along the body, but the body is also bound, I think, quadruple layered under that with, again, cream binding. These are passive Cepheus pickups. I honestly don't know much about Cepheus pickups other than they're used for a lot of Agile's guitars. It's got a standard two-pneumatic bridge and your standard 4-way control, dual volume and dual tone pots, and then of course the 3-way selector switch. I really do enjoy this instrument. My biggest problem with it is heavy as hell. I have a 5-string Warwick and that thing does not weigh as much as this guitar. It is an absolute workout to play this thing for any period of time beyond a few minutes. That said, I still love it. It's kind of like a weird classic mixed with modern on there. The classic being, single cut, looks very much single cut-esque, and then it's got 8 strings for, you know, more modern take. But I really like this guitar because it's kind of an embodiment of a duality. This is my latest acquisition from Agile Guitars. This is the Parhelion series 825-28. The 825-28 refers to the multi-scale length. It's got 28 inches on the bass side and it's got 25 inches on the high end. It has active Fishman Fluence modern pickups. It also has a push-pull pot for either pickup, so you can split it to single coil in either position. It has got a standard mahogany body. I don't think this is a mahogany cap, although it is a veneer, and I absolutely love the color shift from the purple to kind of the sand vanilla in there. The back is fairly ergonomic. It's got a nice belly cut, and the cut coming down here allowing access to the higher end frets is a nice benefit. Compared to my other 8-string, this thing is much lighter, and in fact, the fact that it is lighter and the fact that the neck is so well built makes it feel more like a 7-string than an 8-string, which I really appreciate. However, my most favorite feature on this entire instrument is the fact that it has a Wenge fretboard and a Wenge neck. I don't really invest much in tone wood as far as affecting your tone. However, I love the feel of a Wenge fretboard, and a Wenge neck is a big bonus. I'll turn this back over again so you can see it's actually a 3-piece maple and Wenge neck. I absolutely love that. I've talked about my instruments ad nauseum. Let's talk a little bit more about Agile's overall inventory. Let's talk about some of their pros first. Agile specializes in extended range guitars. They also have a lot in terms of multi-string. So you're going to see a lot of 26 5-inch scale lengths, 27-inch scale lengths, and beyond as far as their extended ranges go. And then as far as extra strings, you're going to see everything in their inventory from 6 all the way up to 10 strings. You don't see it on all of their models, but you will see models like the Parhelion that have between 8 and 10 strings. For you genty guys out there who love the chugs, it's there. Agile is there for you. The next pro is going to be their cost compared to other brands. Agile will offer you specs that a lot of big name brands will offer for a lower price point. Now that has narrowed in the last few years given how expensive making and shipping guitars has become ever since. But I would say that Agile is either comparative or slightly below their competition in terms of price per spec. And I will also state, at least from my perspective, my own personal experience, that their quality is right up there with the big boys as well. A next pro for Agile is their rotating inventory. They have a lot of stuff coming in and out of their inventory, and that includes their body shapes, the number of strings that you're going to find on those body shapes, the scale lengths on those body shapes, and the finishes that you have on there. In fact, if you don't see something you like now, you're probably going to see it in a couple weeks if you keep checking their inventory. The last pro is going to be their modern specs. Agile's got a lot of your modern specs, including your ebony fretboards, your multi-scale lengths, your extended scale range, your headless models. All right, let's talk about a couple cons. One of the cons is also their pro, and that's the rotating inventory. Let's say you log on and you find one of their instruments you really like. It's got the specs you want, it's got the color you want, it's got the body shape you want, but you can't quite afford it, so you wait a little bit, you come back, suddenly it's gone and it's sold out. Chances are they're not going to have that model again unless it's one of their mainstream models for a little while. When I bought my Parhelion, when that model was first released, I was excited about it, but I couldn't afford it. Came back a couple months later and it was gone. I had to wait nearly a year for them to bring that particular model back and for me to scoop one up. Although this time, patience paid off, so happy for myself. I hope you don't have a similar experience if you decide to go with Agile though. The next con is going to be the fact that even at their higher price points, we're not seeing stainless steel frets. Now I know some of the big boys, like even the other mainstream guys, are not incorporating stainless steel frets into their fretboards, and that's a little bit of a bummer. Some folks are dragging their heels, and unfortunately Agile as well. I realize that is a production issue, is a production limitation. It's also a cost elimination. Some companies aren't bringing in stainless steel frets either because they can't accommodate it in their build factories, or it's just going to cost too much for them to want to add to the price point of their end models. Okay, we've now talked about some pros and some cons. Let's talk about some of the models, and I'll put up some screenshots on the screen for you so you guys have an idea of what I'm talking about. Agile's got 3 kind of mainstream super strat type models, and the first one you've already seen is an example of their Scepters. The next one is going to be the Intrepid. Now, the first time I saw the Intrepid was actually in the hands of Pete Cottrell. And if you guys don't know Pete Cottrell, you owe it to yourselves to check him out on YouTube. The dude is absolutely awesome. I love his style, I love his content, and I love his, his technical ability. It's something that I aspire to. In fact, Pete's the reason that I got into playing guitar again as an adult after leaving it for many years when I was a kid. Anyway, he on his channel was playing an Agile Intrepid, I think it was an 8-string. I think that one was at 27-inch scale, but it also had bare knuckle pickups. That had me very envious because, as far as I know, Agile hasn't done anything with bare knuckle in quite a while. But those videos with that guitar were absolutely awesome, and one of these days I hope to own an Intrepid model. The last kind of super strat model they have is the Pendulum. The Pendulum is kind of their higher end super strat model. You tend to find them with floating tremolos. You tend to find them with the nicer hardware, the nicer pickups. The Pendulums are kind of cool, and I really like them. And a commonality that the Pendulums and the Intrepids seem to share is the 3x3 headstock instead of the 6 in a line like you'll find on the Scepters. The next line that you see from Agile fairly frequently is their AL models. These are their single cuts, kind of Les Paul style guitars. The one that I already showed you is my AL 3100 MCC. More frequently these days you'll see their 3200 MCC models. They have one right now that is a silver burst, and man, I'm drooling over that thing. If I had the extra bandwidth right now, I'd probably pick one up. Unfortunately, I don't. And now let's talk about their headless models, which are a kind of, taking advantage of the headless craze that started gripping the guitar industry about 5 years ago. They've got 3 different shapes for those headless models, starting off with their geodesics. It's very common to find them with different finishes, and usually 6 or 7 string, either multi or non-multi scale. The next one is going to be their Chorale Parallax. I see these with 7, 8, 9, even 10 strings, and then their Parhelions. I don't think I've seen the Parhelion headless ones with fewer than 8 strings. I will often see them with 8, 9, or 10 strings, but those are, they're awesome guitars. I've even seen where they break up the pickups with having 2 separate Fishman Fluence Moderns to kind of pick up all 10 strings, and it's not only cool visually, but it's kind of a cool conceptual thing for the guitars. Anyway, that's everything I wanted to say about Agile guitars. I appreciate you guys joining me today. Again, this is not a paid video. These are just my opinions. I wanted to dive a little bit more into Agile guitars. If you guys haven't tried them and you're a gear aficionado, I highly recommend it. You can pick up Agile guitars on randommusic.com or over on Reverb. They sell both new and used on Reverb. And if you guys do try them, I hope you enjoy them. Aside from that, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Hope you find a smile. Take care of yourselves. Later.